So the tools that you'll need for this project are set up right here. The first thing that you'll need is a keycap puller. You can use a wired version that I prefer, or you can use the plastic version. There's also this other version I have here that will be included with the Glorious set. It looks a bit different. I'll show you that in a second. But these work just as fine. The issue with using the plastic ones is that you can cause damage to your keycaps, but if you don't care about that, then there's no issue there. The second thing you'll need is a key switch puller. Now, Glorious provides this other version here that I find to not be very ergonomic whatsoever to your hands. So this cheap version here that actually comes with this blue keycap puller is a lot better, and I'd recommend this. I'll include a link in the description as well. Next thing you need is a Phillips number 0 screwdriver. I use this jewelry version of the Phillips number 0 here. You can use any other version as well. I just use this one for smaller electronics. The last thing you need is a set of needle nose pliers, or needle head, however you may call them. You may also use regular pliers or an adjustable wrench, anything that you can really get the leverage into small areas. I'll show you why you'll need this. There's only one instance where you'll need it. You may be able to substitute it for other tools, but I'll show you why once we get there. Once you have your keyboard with you, you'll actually notice that mine's a little bit different than yours. I've actually painted mine and everything, but at its very core, it will be the same keyboard. Once you have that, you will take your USB and plug it straight into your computer. Now, once I do plug it in, you'll notice that it initializes, and then the lights do turn on. Now, when the lights turn on, they aren't that bright as of now with the switches and the keycaps in place, but when you do take out both the keycaps and the switches, the LEDs, at least to my eyes, are pretty blinding. So instead of turning off the LEDs, now we're going to set them to a different mode such that we can use the built-in RGB of the keyboard to test the validity of the switches when we are installing them. You want to switch it to either Ripple Graph, Pass Without Trace, or Fast Run Without Trace in your GMMK software. So you see when I press a key, the RGB LEDs light up. The main purpose of this is such that when we reinstall the switches, we can test the validity of the switch without any additional software. But we'll get to that near the end of the video. How I like to actually start is by going to the underneath of the keyboard and taking off the bottom components first. Ignore any like paint chips or anything here. What I try to do is I either get my number 0 Phillips head screwdriver, or I get a flat head. What I'll do is I'll take this little tab, flip it there, and then wedge it under the keycap, and then I've pulled it out like that. I've actually damaged the paint here, so if you do have any kind of soft paint, be careful with that. But with the normal plastic, it'll be fine, and it's not like anyone looks at the bottom of your keyboard anyway. The next thing you may want to do is take out the feet here too. You probably wouldn't want to paint these, but if you do, you can just leave them on. The easiest way to take it out is just to push on the inside here, and then pull towards you. Just like that. That was pretty easy to get out. We do the same on the other side. This way, this time we push to the left instead. And then pull up, and then we got that one out too. Now, in terms of getting the rubber feet, Glorious does provide extra rubber feet in case you damage these. What I usually did is I'd take like a heat gun or like a hair dryer or something, put it on here, and then slowly peel off the feet here. They are pretty sticky, such that they can come off easily, and that you could reapply them as well. So don't worry if you do mess them up, or if you do have some extras. The other thing is just put them onto like a plastic bag or something and keep them safe. For this project, I won't do that, but that is an option in case you do want to paint your keyboard. Next thing you want to do is you want to actually take out the keycaps first. So in order to do that, I'm just going to use the wire one here, put it around to the keycap, and then just pull upwards. And the keycap comes out. Now, if the switch actually comes out with it, that's double the points right there, because we want to take out the switches later. So don't worry if you do take the switches out too. I won't do all of these, but I'll show you another one here, the other Alt key. Got that one easy as well. Now, you may have a bit of difficulty with the space bars and the other components that do use stabilizers. What I usually like to do is go to one side, then gently pull up, go to the other side, gently pull up, and then my spacebar comes out there. Might require a bit more force for you, but should be the same amount of force, same concept, whatever. Same thing for this one. If you have the metal version, you do just put it onto the sides and pull up. Now, I don't usually like to use the plastic versions of the keycap pullers, but I'll show you how to do that too. I'll use the glorious version for this. Simply just put it around the keycap, press it in, and it should make a click, and then pull upwards. And then you've got the keycap there. Now, there's no damage on this one, thankfully, but, you know, try and avoid that if you can. Probably use the wire version unless you don't care about the quality of your keycaps or what happens to them. So you may have noticed while I was taking out the keycaps that some of the switches actually came out as well. Now, that's both an advantage and a disadvantage. It's a disadvantage because it means that the switch wasn't really stable or securely snug into the plate itself, which could cause some wobble of the entire switch or some other problems that may occur. The advantage, though, is of all the 104 switches that I have to take out on this full-size keyboard, you may have less, of course, but now I have to take less of them out because they came out with the keycaps. So in order to do that, you just get your switch puller, and you can do it of two ways. You can pull from side to side. So from the two sides here, I'll just grab onto it, give it a little wobble, and that doesn't come out because that's pretty secure into here. So the other way you can do it is if you look closely, there's actually a white tab, and I'll show it to you on the switch as well. You want to try and push the tab on this side inwards, and when you do that, it makes it a lot easier to get the switch out. So on this one, if we see from the top-down view, you want to push this tab here inwards. It's this little thing. Sorry about the camera not focusing, but you just push this part in here. You can cause damage to it, but it's the nature of having a hot swap board that it does, that with the plate-mounted switches, that it does cause a bit of damage. Currently, I don't know of a better way, but by all means do comment if you know of a better way to get them out without damaging this plastic part here. For the most part, I haven't damaged them. I've pulled these out and put them back in multiple times, so I think it is fine. It's just over time, it won't be so easy. So we push the pin in, pull it upwards, and there, seamlessly comes out. And you just do that for all your switches. Sections I had difficulty with was on the very right hand side. You won't have this issue with your TKL or your 60%, but the tabs for pulling out the switches here are blocked by the stabilizers. Fiddling with the switch puller brings no luck, so what I did is I got a small flathead screwdriver, or any small tool that you can use to reach the tab and push it forward. You just wedge it in and get some leverage and push it out. So, now that you've got all your switches out, all your keycaps out and everything, the last thing you gotta do before you actually start unscrewing is get your stabilizers out. I realize now that some of my stabilizers are actually overlubed. So, you can see the disgustingly overlubed ones, which I'll have to clean off, of course. But it's pretty simple. There's going to be a tab right at the top. It's difficult for you to see, but that tab you're just going to want to push inwards. I think you can see that now. So what you want to do with that tab is you push it inwards, or push it downwards towards yourself, and then just pull it up like that. You do the same on this side over here, and then just push up and then get that wire out. So I'll show you that again. Take the tab here, pull down towards you, and pull upwards. So essentially something like that. Then you got it on the first one, get it on the second one. Take the wire up and pull it out. That's the same for all of them. Now when it comes to the screws, you're going to have a bunch of the screws on the top section of your keyboard. Now, depending on which version you have, the TKL, the 60%, or the full size will depend on how many screws you have onto your plate, but the idea is the same, is that they're all visible on here. So if we look at mine, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, Move over 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 screws in total. I'll just take those out and then you're moving on to the removal of the plate. Now, once you've gotten all the screws out, really all that does is bring out the bottom plate right here. Now, if you see, the bottom plate is actually still in place with the wire. What you want to do is you see like this little foam pad right here. You just want to peel it up. And then for mine, I have this little white sticker onto the wire itself. This actually attaches to the USB cable. So what you want to do is you can actually just pull towards the left like that, and then you see it's just a pinned cable and this plastic piece right here. Sorry once again that it won't focus on it. I'll try and include some pictures or something like that. Quick note, this cable attaches to the non-removable cable of my full-size board. I'm unsure if you'll have to do this for the removable cable variants of this board, such as the 60%. So now that you've done that, the plate actually comes away from the PCB. So we're going to put the PCB aside for now. We're going to focus on this plate here. As you can see, the cable is still attached, and in case you wanted to paint your back plate, as I did here, mine is silver, but on the inside it's still black. So essentially, if you wanted to remove it, just pull it up from here, and then you can see it's just 2 more screws holding in those pieces right there. So take them out with your screwdriver. Keep them safe. And this plastic piece just comes off right there. This is just to keep the cable clamped in place and keep it secure. Put that to a side, and you can take out the cable completely. And there you have it. It's all apart, and now you've got just your back plate, which you can now paint separately. So next step is to remove the plate from the PCB. If you are painting it, you definitely want to take the PCB apart, but regardless, I have a video that's sort of outlined how to do this, but I'll show you in entirety how to do it. So there are actually 1, 2, if I'm counting this right, 3, there's a third one there, 4, 5 foam pads here with screws underneath them, which you will have to take apart. Now, if you have the different variations for them, by all means, you will have less screws to take out. And I'll show you right here. So on this right side, this is actually a foam pad, and when I peel it back, it reveals a screw. So take apart all 5 of these. Now once you have those screws taken out, the board actually still moves around because there are these tabs you have to twist out of place that Gloria's put in place. I'm not sure what the specific reason for them is, but this is where you'll need your needle nose pliers or any kind of other pliers to get that grip onto them. So I'll show you first of one of the tabs if I can find it. You can see this one's actually pretty damaged here. It's this thing right here. I can't really show you from a side, but maybe you can see it. That little piece protruding. There's another one over here somewhere. Yeah, at the very end. This piece right here. You can see, like, as I move it around, that it's keeping it in place. So what you want to do, and I'm sorry I can't really show this to you very well on camera, but you want to clamp onto that piece there. You want to be very gentle with it. What you want to do is just twist it so it's flat against the PCB, or parallel with the PCB hole, such that you can literally just pop it off like that. You see how it's straight? Well, it's also very shredded as well, as of many times of grabbing onto it, but it's on the underneath, it doesn't matter. And you see, just by pushing it, I get it out. So on this one, there's only 2 of them, or actually there might be a third, and I can't see. Yeah, there is a third. So there's 6 screws within the pad. Let me redo that. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, 6 there for the full-size version. So that's how many screws that you'll have to take out, as you see as I reveal there. So now that you have the parts straightened, you want to simply push it, and there you go. Your PCB is now separated from your plate. So we'll just move the PCB aside for now. And you can see the disgusting plate I have underneath that I tried to foam mod, that I messed up with a bunch of paint. We'll look at this side because this side is so much nicer in comparison. So yeah, don't look at that underneath, that's disgusting. But now if you wanted to go and customize your board and paint it or do whatever you want to do with it, you can do that right now. Let me give you a better look. So now you see that our plate is taken apart. It's also really disgusting. I tried foam modding it, didn't clean it properly. Definitely take care of your board a lot better than I do. Personally, I don't care much about this one because I don't use it anymore. But yeah, like I definitely took a lot of fun in painting it and modding it out when I did. So be a lot more careful with it than I am right here. This is just to show you the nature of how to take it apart. It's not that difficult, as you can see from this video, but now we're going to put it back together. So putting it back together is pretty much the exact same as taking it apart, you just do it in reverse. So what you want to do first is put your plate in place. Make sure your tabs are perfectly non-bent. There are 4 of these actually. There are 4 of these that you have to straighten out. I don't know if you can see from a side or not, but 1, 2, 3, 4 that you have to straighten. Get your PCB. This is the front side. You can see there's the keypad there. Make sure you align the side that has no holes with the side that also has no holes. So you'd put it in like that. And since it is to proper size, all these tabs will be in place. If you want, you can take the tab and actually just twist it such that it no longer is able to come out. You may or may not be able to see that, but the point is, it can't come out anymore. I'm not going to go through the trouble of putting all those tabs back into place. But now you take all those 6 pads that you saw before, put your screws in, and screw it back in place. Now that your PCB has been secured to your plate, next thing you want to do is actually get your base plate first. And we're actually going to put the cable in before we do anything else. So if you remember before, all we had to do was feed the cable through the little hole, like so, and just bring it in a decent amount. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to feed it in further and actually attach it first to the PCB. I forgot to mention, but the cable colors do matter. On your PCB it may look something like the image shown on the screen right now. Ensure the red cable is connected to VCC and the bottom black cable is connected to signal ground, or SG. Matching cable colors is a lot easier than matching stickers and orientation. So, if I remember, the white part was like this, and it went in just like that. Then just put the little foam pad in, and then you're good. So what I'm gonna do now, is I'm actually gonna feed the little cable in first. Be careful with this. You wanna get this part into here, and that rubber part right there. Get it something like this. And once you have that, you want to get this little plastic piece here and just clamp it in place. And then of course, screw the little screws in. Now you could do this a bit differently. Whatever's easier for you. I kind of like just having everything in place at the same time. A little bit more messy, but gets the job done. So, cable's still good, snug in place, as I can feel right here. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna put the plate on. And there, it's good. Next up, we fully install the screws, but try not to fully tighten them just yet. The reason I don't fully tighten the screws is because the plate tends to flex easily if you tighten too much, causing it to become increasingly difficult to press fit the switches into the plate. I do this just to make life easier, and you can always do one final pass of tightening the screws at the very end. So now that the base, the cable, everything else is put together, you can see this is actually very loose right here because I haven't tightened it all the way. And that's perfectly fine. Now the first thing you want to do is get your stabilizers in place. So stabilizers, pretty much the exact same story as putting them in, you just do them in reverse. So in order to put the stabilizer, what you do is you feed the little wire downwards. Then it's just a matter of fiddling with it, pushing it down as much as possible towards yourself right now, and then pushing on the tops and rotating it in place. And there you go, that should work. Same story for this. Wire goes into the bottom, push it in as much as you can, and then push on the tops till you hear that click, and then you're good. Now when it comes to the actual putting the switches back in place, what I recommend doing is getting your USB cable first and plugging that in straight to your computer. And the great thing about this is we already set up the software such that the lights don't turn on so they don't blind us, but also that when you put in a switch, you will be able to test the validity of whether or not it actually makes contact and the pins are not bent or anything like that. So because of how we set it up before, and if you did the proper preparation, just take the switch, align the pins. For this board, make sure the pins are straight, and then they're just going to be on the bottom right here. Just push straight down. So you see that when we put it in, it now lights up whenever we press it, which means it does work properly. So I'll show you that with another switch. Here with this one, we'll put this one in right next to it. And you see, this one lights up as well, so that one worked too. Now, in the case where you do end up actually bending a pin, what you can use is a pair of tweezers, or you can use your needle nose as well. I wouldn't recommend this. This is way too strong. Definitely use like some tweezers or something to just straighten it out. It doesn't mean the switch is ruined. You just have to straighten it out and then put it back in. And this is how you essentially test if your switches are working. So some of your keys actually may not register as well until you actually finish screwing in everything. So definitely take your screwdriver and go through one final pass of just screwing in the plate to the base plate, just to make sure everything is snug. And this may cause some of your keys that weren't originally registering, or if you had to press really hard for a key to register, it may be because there's no contact because the plate's not fully tightened. So now if I tighten up everything, I can see that, yeah, everything's working all according to plan except for my home key, but I'll look into that later. Now, the other way to test whether your switches work when you put them in place, if you don't want to use the hardware on your keyboard, you can also use software. So if you see here, as I press down the keys, that, wow, some of them actually don't register. That's amazing. That means I've messed up the pins on them. But if you see the one between the Alt and the menu key, when I press that one down, that's actually the function key, so that won't actually register. This is a great way of checking, either secondarily or whatnot, whether all your keys actually work. And as I can see here, I actually need to fix the left and down keys as well. And of course, the last step in your process is, of course, to get your keycaps and put them in place. Now, it may be difficult for you to put yours in place if you're not familiar with the layout of your keyboard. And that's where the switch hitter software actually comes into play, in that you can see exactly when you press a key that you know it is that specific key. So I know this one's definitely going to be Y. Alternatively, you can refer to the Glorious website to see the key layout. Final step is to put your keycap puller back, reattach your flippable feet, and of course the rubber feet if you took those out. And you are done. You have successfully reassembled your keyboard.